Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Feazell, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 2 p.m. on the Eastern Time Zone. So I get to ride home with you in the afternoon. You can find us on television. We are syndicated on Abundance Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on thenewscasters.com. You can also find us on all the social media sites, including Facebook, facebook.com/DFeazell. And another way you can find us is on Twitter, X, and on YouTube and all the others. Continue sending emails. I definitely appreciate that. It gives me ideas on shows you like. And that's what I'm all here for, is for you and to find what you are looking for and what we can just all learn together. So a lot of emails I've received here lately have to do with gardening and with planting. And we're talking about propagation. And I'm telling you, I'm all into propagation. First of all, my take on this, on propagation, is you buy a plant once. You just buy it one time. To buy a good, healthy plant, one that's got really good roots to it, and you'll never have to buy a plant again. This all started with a couple of lavender plants that I bought a few years ago. And so I started out, I did like 5, propagated 5, just to see if I could do it. So I wound up last year with 120 plants. And I didn't think they would all come up. And they all did. Did the same thing this year, way over 100 plants after we moved to Abbeville, South Carolina. And I'm just loving it. I've got my little lavender field started. And so next year, what I plan to do is planting 200 more lavender plants, because I really want that whole side. We're on 8 acres, and I would like to have at least a half acre of lavender, because I just love the smell of it. It's good for you. It's a great herbal plant. It's just wonderful. But let's go ahead and talk about what you need if you are thinking about propagating. And I have a few videos too of me at work, so you can see what I do. Preparing for shows for you. So cuttings, once you've chosen a plant, that's important. Make sure it's got a good root structure to it. It's time to get cutting. And this is according to a website, one of my go-to sites, skh.com. skh.com. You'll find all kinds of great tried and proven methods for propagating and for anything to do with planting, anything to do with gardening. So once you've chosen the plant, it's time to go ahead and get that cutting. So here are the supplies you need. The things you already have. You got to have the plant. That's number one. You got to have a small vase, an old drinking glass, or another glass container is best. Water. You want clean, sharp scissors. And know something else you got to have? A whole lot of patience, because I'm going to tell you, I put the thing in the glass container, and I'm sitting around just, like, oh, well, let's see, it's only been one day. Let's see what it's done. Well, you got to be really, really careful that you don't aggravate the roots of the plant. I wanted to mention old glass containers. Okay, if I have anything in a glass container that I purchase, it could be barbecue sauce, it could be spaghetti, it could be whatever. Whatever I get in a glass container, I keep that glass container. I don't throw it away. And I want to keep the lid on it too, if I possibly can, as long as it fits. But keep the glass containers. I just found that using a plastic container doesn't always work the way I would like for it to. And what I mean by that is sometimes when you use a glass container, this funky stuff, it tends to build a lot faster in a plastic container versus a glass container. Let's go ahead and look at the first video, and we're going to be right back in just a minute. It's just a little bit over a minute, but we'll be right back. Hey, so on this show, we're going to talk about propagation. And now this is the first step, okay? I make my own soil concoction. I guess that's what you would call it. And I like to use garden soil, and I like to have some that has some fertilizer in it. And I'm using this for propagating plants and for seeding. So I like to use 1 part of the soil green or whatever you can find on sale. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate.
And then black cow or any kind of manure works. Use 1/2 part of that. And then I like to use peat moss. And the reason I like to use peat moss is peat moss can really help soak in that water. Because water at this time, especially when it seeds and you're rooting, is extremely important. Okay, so to give you an idea on the measurements, I'll go with, let's just say 1 quart, of course I use a lot more than that, of the flower and vegetable garden soil. So let's just say 1 quart of that, and then 1/2 quart of your fertilizer, cow manure, or chicken manure is great. So if you have chickens, that would be absolutely fabulous. And then peat moss, we would say 1/2 quart of that. Mix it all together really good now, okay? Because if you have lumps of the peat moss, that's not going to be good at all. Oh, I see some little baby bees. There's a baby bee. The bees are doing like super good. They love living in South Carolina, apparently. Okay, so I'll go ahead and let you go on this one. We're going to go back to the potting table, and then we'll talk about that.
We're back. So I found this also, and this just adds and echoes what I've just said, but you want to find an area that you'd like to cut. Okay, the best cuttings contain about 2 to 3 leaves and are around 4 to 8 inches long. This is everything. I told you about the lavender plants, and I did the same thing there. The lavender had great root system. Now remember this about a plant. Okay, your root system has to be on top. I mean, it's got to be top. If it has any kind of, if you're pulling a root and you're replanting something, always take gently, okay? Always make sure that you loosen the dirt on it as much as you possibly can. Just take a look at those roots. If you're seeing any dead roots, you need to get a pair of cutters and you need to cut those off, because a dead root is not going to do anything. It's just going to sit there, and all it's going to try to do is soak in juices and all those nourishment that the stem needs and the leaves need. Okay, so you got to make sure you've got a really, really good base, and that's going to be your root system. Okay, then you'll find the node. That'll be like a little knobbly looking bump where the stems and the leaves attach to the main stem. And then what you want to do is make a diagonal cut just below the lowest node of the cutting. Now the diagonal cut will help the new plant take in the water and the nutrients, and the new node at the bottom is where the new roots will develop. Now, let me tell you what you need to do. Any plant that you possibly can. I'm just going to use a tomato plant, for instance. Okay, so this is my tomato plant. Okay, pretend there were a bunch of leaves going all the way up here. I want to get a root. It doesn't have to be as wide and or in radius as a pencil or an ink pen or anything like that, but it needs to be a healthy one. But it needs to be bendable. Okay, so if it's too old, if it's too like stiff, this process is not going to work, the one I'm telling you about. So it needs to be bendable. Okay, so let's just pretend this is a tomato plant. I took it off of one of my plants. And by the way, I'm constantly rooting tomato plants all through the season, over and over and over again, because when I take those suckers off, those are wonderful plants, and they're already there. All you got to do is root them. Okay, so I like to tear instead of cut. And let me tell you why I tear. Okay, I tear because if I tear it off with my thumbnails or my fingernails just a little bit, it's going to leave a little bit of a jagged edge where you cut it off. And that's perfect for rooting. Okay, so you got just a little bit of a jag. You don't want to cut, you want to take it off exactly right where the stem is. You want to leave maybe about a 1/16 of an inch, just a tiny, tiny place. So that's where your root is going to start. And you're giving that plant a head start. Okay, so I'm taking all those leaves off, and I'm leaving maybe 1 or 2 leaves right here at the top. I'm also going to get my cutters, and I'm going to cut those leaves in half. And the reason I'm doing that is going to cause that energy into the stem that you've just cut off. It's going to cause it to go, I mean, this thing's going to just take off like a jet engine. Okay, so again, I'm making all these little cuts, and then what I'm going to do is fold it down. I'm going to kind of lay it down on the side, sideways, and I'm going to put it into my glass container. And then I'm going to start that rooting process. Now you can also do this instead of putting it into the dirt right away. You can go ahead and just stick it in a glass of water. Okay, so use a glass. Again, I feel that you get a better energy. I feel like you get a much, much better plant, because plastic, just think about your microwave. Okay, so you're heating up leftover spaghetti. Okay, I put my leftover spaghetti in a plastic container. and it's going to have stain, from your spaghetti sauce on there, and you can never clean it off. And I just feel like that's getting into your body. But I use a glass container or clay or something like that, and I heat my spaghetti up. There's no stain that goes in it. So think about that for plastic, okay? I don't know, I got to think about plastic. Let's look at another part 2, and this is also about propagating your plants. I'll be right back.
Okay, there are different ways you can grow in a garden. I mean, any way you wish. I do all of it. I like to plant seeds. I also like to propagate. And, buying plants, you can do that as well. If you're not really good at seed, I'll have to tell you a really, really quick way to have plants and have a garden would be for propagation. So if you wanted to go to a big box store and buy, or a nursery, I suggest someone local, and buy your plants. That's a great way to get started. Okay, so what I do, I talked about the 3 different materials that you use in potting your plants. And so I like to get a big wheelbarrow. You can use a box. It doesn't matter. Just whatever you got on hand and use that. Another thing I like to do before I even start putting the cuttings in is, let's just say I've got this one right here ready. Okay? And I'm going to do a tomato in that one. What I'm going to do is I always like to collect rainwater. And I've got a little bit of fertilizer in there as well. And by the way, that's grass tea fertilizer. I dunk it down in there. Okay, I make sure that thing is soaked with water. Okay, because that's extremely important. If you just put the plant in there and then water it, I mean, you'll be okay. But you just need to make sure that every bit of that nice soil that you just put together is soaking wet. Okay, now you can go ahead and put it over to the side, and if you want to go ahead and get your cuttings, you can do that. Now, I'm going to go get a couple tomato plants. I'm going to show you how I do that and how I just use cuttings and seeds as well. Okay, I'll be right back. I'll place this and I'm coming right back.
We're going to talk for just about another minute, then we're going to have to go into a commercial break. But I wanted to mention this to you. We're talking about the area that you would like to cut when you're propagating in water and not necessarily in soil medium, like I'm doing right here on what you see here. Now, let's talk about the skinny glass. Okay, so what you want to do is fill a tall, skinny glass with water and place the cutting into the water. Use clear glass for those plant propagation techniques because it'll allow you to track root growth more easily. But any tall, skinny, watertight container will work in a pinch. Again, save all of your glass. If you have friends and neighbors and they throw away their glass, they're not going to keep them. Take them from them and leave the labels on them. You don't have to worry about that. And that just kind of add to it a little bit, I think. And then that label's already on there. You can go ahead and get your Sharpie and you can put the date you did this, by the way, and then just go from there. Let's go into a commercial break. Man, I can't believe how time flies when I'm talking to you. We'll be right back in just a minute.
Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of the Cobb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to limonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community, whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need. Toys at Christmas or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender. Designs offers a line of handmade memorial, wedding, and keepsake jewelry that launched back in 1970. I'm a self-trained jewelry designer, and I will work closely with you to create unique designs you can love and treasure for years to come. Whether that be flowers that were used in a funeral arrangement or stones you found on the beach at a memorable trip, call me at 256-659-4319, and let's think of the possibilities.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer
yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
The only place I buy my beef is Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama. Their cattle is born and raised on their ranch, grass and grain fed, and you can feel confident when you serve your family and friends because their beef is all natural and no antibiotics or hormones are added. You can buy whole beef or perhaps go in with family or friends and buy half. Their customer service is number one as they take care of the delivery to their local processor and can deliver to your home for a small added fee. They also offer herd replacement heifers. I always call Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama for my beef specialty recipes and cookouts, and you can too. Food shortages are increasing, so buy local by calling 256-523-6462. That's 256-523-6462.
We're back. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Donna, and I am your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. We're here to talk to you about propagation of plants and how to save all kinds of money by a plant only once. Make sure it's a good, healthy plant, too, by the way. Now, another thing, if you're going to a local nursery, shop local, because these folks are in the business and they're there to help you. They know your soil. And by the way, before you start doing any kind of planting, always make sure you check with your county extension service. That's what we do. Found out that I've got some pretty good soil here. So we have a mix of sandy and we also have some clay. And sandy soil is really good for those tomato plants. I'm going to tell you, they really love it. Let's look at the third part of propagating plants. And it's a little bit longer, but we'll be right back in just a few minutes. So you hang in there, okay? And if you have any questions, by the way, always send an email to Donna at donnasedge.com. I'll be right back.
Okay, so we're in part of the garden here. This is a whole big garden area. This is the lavender I planted. I have some peppers that I got planted pretty soon, banana peppers. You can even take cuttings from a banana pepper, absolutely. This is an early girl tomato, and so wanted to go ahead and kind of let it grow out of light so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. And look, tomatoes all over the place. I can hardly wait for a tomato sandwich. Okay, now there are leaders in a tomato plant. So I've got these two right here that I kind of let overgrow just a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. This is a leader, and you can see that it has no plants on it. It has, you can see this one right here. See the blooms, and then you see tomatoes on other leaves. I'm going to go ahead and cut 2 of these really quick, and then we're going to go back to the potting table so you can see what I'm talking about. Now, clippers, make sure they're good and clean. You need to dip them, wipe them off with rubbing alcohol is what I use. Some people use bleach, but whatever you have on hand, no big deal. Okay, so I'm holding the camera, so you're going to have to bear with me. I'm going to go, you can see it. Yeah, here we go. I'm going to go right down here to the tip, and I'm going to cut him. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and take this one. And I've got another one I saw I want to take as well. And you want to get them down kind of as close to the bottom as you can, because I like for my tomatoes to grow kind of like a tree. So I'm constantly propagating. Now when you propagate, what you're doing also, you're adding more energy to those tomatoes. So you're going to have, in any plant, not just tomatoes, but everything, the more you propagate, the better off you're going to be, and the bigger yield and the healthier that plant is going to be. Because if you've got plants, if you have stems or whatever growing down here at the bottom, see, I could get probably 10 tomato plants off of this one, Okay, so you really don't want a lot of, see down here how it can rain and splatter can happen, and that can cause disease in your plant. So after I get through talking with you, I'm going to come right back here and get this done. Okay, now, again, these are clean. I think I want to go, let's see. Yeah, let's do this one. Okay, so I'm cutting him. Okay. I like little rigid areas. Oh, and another thing you can do, if all you want it, you can just use your fingers. Okay. Now, I would never take one that has those beautiful blooms on them. Okay, that's already some tomatoes coming out. You want to get a leader, something that has nothing on it. Okay. I can just cut it off with my fingernail if I want to. You know, just whatever you want to do. Okay, let's go ahead and head back to the potting table. And we'll talk a little bit more about propagation.
We're going to rush right back into number 4, okay, because this really tells you what it's all about. So we're going to go ahead and wind this up, and I'll be right back in just a few more minutes. So this is step 4, part 4.
Okay, so we are back at the propagating table. And so I went on ahead and dumped some water in one of these smaller pots right here. And you can see this stick is for a reason. And what I'm going to do now, I went on, oh, and one thing I failed to tell you is when you are getting some cuttings from your tomatoes or whatever plants that you have, you need to have some water ready so they can have immediate water. They need to have all kinds of soil ready to go, okay? Wet soil, moist soil, you've got to have that going on. Okay, now another thing I want to do, I've taken it out, and you can see right here my cutters. I want to cut this at an angle, kind of like this. Now it looks as if I'm going to destroy this plant, but what I'm going to do is cut off some of these leaves. And I'll show you why there's a purpose for that. I'm cutting off as many, almost everything. Okay, so you can see me cutting that off. I'm cutting that off. Sorry I didn't do my nails before this, but anyway, I'm cutting that off. I'm cutting this off. And I'm just going to tear the top leaf. Now, what in the world am I doing to this plant? Well, you're going to see in just a minute. Okay, now, I'm going to get the stick, and I'm going to kind of create a little riff right here. Okay, not just a hole, but a riff. And I'm going just like this. Okay, so I'm creating kind of a crater. Then what I'm going to do, I love using this stuff right here. This is, get it for you to see the label. I've been using, this has lasted me good for, man, 2 or 3 years. You don't use but just a tiny bit of it. And it's a root compound. Now, sometimes I use honey from the girls. Okay, now what I'm going to do is just a small amount, and then I'm going to just kind of tap it just a little bit. And see all of these little leaders? See all of this part right here? These are going to turn into some fabulous roots. Okay, so you're going to have a good rooting system with this as well. Now, I'm going to lay it down into this little crater that I created. See, just like that. Then I'm going to cover it. Now, your plant is laying kind of sideways, but that's okay because when I put this thing in the garden, it's going to have roots that are going to be all the way here. I'm going to have a strong tomato plant. And y'all, this bad weather we get in the south, get tornado warnings, wind warnings, and stuff like that all the time. These tomato plants are going to be stout, they're going to be sturdy, and we've talked about this before, but the heavy part, if you make sure that the root system is good on the plant, it's going to withstand a lot of stuff, even the terrible wind and rain we get here. So anyway, I've created a little tunnel, and I went on ahead and put it in here just like that. Now, also, I use these, I have labels. I'm going to put the date. Okay, so like with what have I got right here? Okay, here's a peach. Okay, so I started propagating peaches this morning. And so I've got the peach on here, and I have the date on it, 6/13/25, and I'm sticking it right there in the pot because I'm going to forget. You do so many different things, unless you're Superwoman or man, and I'm not. Okay, let's do another one. And let's go ahead and pull this sucker out right here. This was a sucker that was on a tomato plant. Okay, I'm tearing it off with my fingers. And I want it to be kind of rough because each one of those little fibers down there is going to create a root. Let me move this so you can see what I'm doing. Now you can use your cutters if you want to, but I like the way I don't like the smooth cut. I want it to be kind of fibrous. Now this may not work for you, but this has worked for me for a number of years. And yeah, people are always saying, wow, Donna, look at all those tomato plants you got. And I spend very little money. If you grow your own seeds, and even if you just start out with, say, 5 plants, if that's all you start out with, you could wind up with a garden full of tomato plants just from setting out a couple. So that's all there is to it. Okay, now I've already cut this at a side angle. You know, we mentioned that. You can see it or not. Okay, the side, there you can. Okay, there's the side angle. I like that because then again the roots get started right there. And the reason I do that is it gives me just a little bit more space. It creates more space into this root compound I'm dipping it in. Okay. Now there are gels. Gels are good, but my experience with using a gel is it doesn't stay on there like powder does. Now, I've seen a lot of people, and you can do this. You can stick your finger in there and just have one hole in there, and that's fine. But be careful sticking this in there because you don't want to use all the rooting compound because you've stuck it into the plant. Okay, we're going to use the same system. There's my stick. I'm going to create a little crevice right there. Okay. Now don't do it too deep, okay, because you want the roots to have room to grow down there at the bottom. All right, here we go again. I'm planting this, see, with all those little stems and things right there. That's going to be future roots right there. Okay? I'm planting them down just like that. And then I'm covering the soil. Now I'm going to water this every day. Now another thing I wanted to point out to you also is with your plants, keep them in the shade for the most part. I've got a shaded area. Trees are shading this part. So cover them, let them have a little bit of shade because this, and it could be just, we're in, South Carolina, Abbeville, and it does get really humid here, just like it did when we were living in Alabama. And that can be pretty harsh to that new little tender plant right there. So again, keep it in the shade for a good couple of weeks. When you see that if it stays greenish, and you start seeing little hairs come on there, that is a good thing. You know that you've done a great thing for that tomato plant. Okay, I'm going to douse a little bit of water on it, and then we'll be finished with this segment. But thank you again so much for watching. We'll be back shortly.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you got a little bit out of that. Let me know what you do because I'm all into learning. Just because I took the Master Gardeners program at Auburn University doesn't mean I know it all. I promise you, but there's so many great techniques that are out there. So let me know what you do. Send an email to Donna@DonnasEdge.com. Donna@DonnasEdge.com. Hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Send me pictures. Let me know what you do. See you later. Bye-bye.